And we are back. Welcome to the late morning session of the NextGEOSS Summit, the final day. We have a great panel of keynote speakers at this conclusion of the summit. We will start immediately with Gilberto Camara from the group on Earth observation. And I let you introduce yourself, Gilberto, and start the presentation. The floor is yours. Please ask questions in the chat box, and I'm sure Gilberto will be happy to answer when we are in the discussion part. Gilberto.
Good morning, everyone. I am, of course, I would not, on the interest of time, describe GEO that much. I'm assuming that everybody that works in NextGEOSS and associated it knows about GEOS. So I'm going to share some thoughts about the global perspective. Of course, I've seen the discussion this morning. A lot of it was about European, as it must be in terms of strategies. And I'd like to offer a more global perspective and I have more questions than answers, I should start saying, and therefore so that hope to you to stimulate the discussion. The first thing is to acknowledge from the GEO perspective, so because the project is NextGEOSS, and the proposal that you have sent yourselves was to what extent you could advance the technologies that underpin GEOSS, the Global Earth Observation System of Systems. And that was a multi-year effort by a very talented team. And from the point of view of GEO, the Secretariat, I can safely say to you that you have largely achieved your goals. You had multiple goals, a lot of them. So the symposium has been about how much these goals have been achieved. But I think by and large, you have done a number of important messages that you've left in how to advance GEOS. You did, from the perspective of the GEO Secretariat, there was the idea of integration of thematic areas and services there. You have shown how to improve the data collections, and you also shown how to interact with data providers. The other point, which has been quite important, has been the use of, I would argue, a very stable platform, ELIP from TerraDUI, which happens to be a very good platform to integrate many of the new applications that you put in NextGEOSS. The Secretariat would certainly welcome the continuation of this effort. We know that, let's be quite straightforward, what you have done now goes beyond what is available currently in GEOS, and you have shown that you have the capabilities for improving GEOS. So it's really, from the point of view of the Secretariat, we would very much like that the European Commission continues to support your effort into improving GEOS. We think that you did a lot of very good work, a lot of very valuable additions, and it would be a shame if these valuable additions of this very good work is not put forward in the real advancement of GEOS. So I would like to first of all congratulate the whole team, because you have made a proposal which was ambitious, but I would argue that by and large, you did measure up to your ambitions, and you actually achieved most, if not all, of your goals. So I will then, for me, NextGEOSS is a success, and I wish it continues. So I'm now going to more a general perspective, not necessarily on the NextGEOSS itself, but on the more general things of what lies next. First of all, I would like you to understand what is the perspective that an intergovernmental organization like GEO has to take. And that perspective is different from a company or even a country or even the European Union, because we are bound by principles. And some of these principles, one of the most important ones is the Principle 10 of the Earth Summit, the RIO-92 Declaration, which is the environmental issues are best handled with the participation of all citizens. Each individual shall have appropriate access to information concerning the environment. So this principle calls for organizations like GEO to deliver matters of decision, for example, involving environmental data from Earth observation by in situ or satellite on a non-discriminatory and open basis, and guaranteeing that individuals have content, not specifically those who can afford to buy the services, but all society has the right to understand what's happening to their environment. So on that light, which is different from a perspective from, I would argue, specific actors, GEO has been pushing to three pillars. The first one is to make cloud platforms with lots of data open, accessible to everyone. Second, that the knowledge which is used, the software, the algorithms, the API, should be reusable and shared and accessible. And third, that all of this information, data, and knowledge be put at the service of institutions worldwide so that they can really be empowered to produce the information that their countries, their citizens need. And therefore, we have some questions which I'll dealt briefly, because these are important questions within the time allocated. I'm going to go briefly into them. But I think these questions are, some of them, I think, easier to answer. Some of them have consequences. So are we going for open data or open science? Are we going for public or private services? Are we going for data downloads or cloud services? Are we going for services or APIs? I'm going to start by saying that the third bullet here has been largely, I would argue, answered in favor of cloud services versus data downloads, where the others are still open. So here we saw, I'm taking a presentation, slides from the presentation given earlier by Hervé on Terra-Do. Terra-Do is ELIP is a very sophisticated technology that aims at operational and continuous integration development of solutions to customers. It's a very mature. I'm very impressed, and I compliment Hervé and Pedro and all the Terra-Do team for the work. The question that I have has nothing to do with the technology itself, but rather some of the assumptions that have underpinned some ideas. Are workflows and services realistic from the point of view of the users? In other words, how much Earth observation is operational and how much complexity is hidden behind the workflows idea? And I don't have, like I said, I have more questions than answers, so I'm going to show some doubts which I have. First of all, the whole idea of services versus APIs. Let's look at what has happened in the digital economy. I would argue the digital economy is API-based. So people like Google and Apple offer APIs in iOS and Android and let the market loose to develop those APIs, which allow development of maps, of telephones, call your dog, Uber, what you have, your applications on top of it. And therefore, the key there was have a nice set of APIs who allowed massive development and actually tailoring the needs for massive users. So in that sense, APIs are, in many views, still the essential building blocks of the cloud services. The other point also about complexity and operationality is the recognition that there is an elephant in the room. We would like to think of applications in Earth observations, more or less operational things, where you have a big data, you put data in data cubes, you toss everything to machine learning, and everything is ready. But that's not the case. Anyone who has really worked with data knows that ecosystems, the object of our inquiry, are highly variable. There's an elephant in the room. Local knowledge is essential. One example, I am particularly, this is me, working with a team to classify land use, land cover on the Brazilian savanna. And that's more than 2 million square kilometers. Latitude ranges from 5 south to 25 south, covering almost the south tropical belt, enormous variation in climate, temperature, soils. And yet, it is a challenge for those who would argue that this is very much, automated. Simply, it's not. So this is the development here shows something very interesting. A lot of the time we spend on developing issues for the Cerrado is on data analysis. Just a moment. Development is spent on, for example, analyzing. These are two sets of samples which are being labeled the same. This is soy and corn, and soy and corn. And you notice that we put there on a certain space. It's two-dimensional space. It's a technique of dimensionality reduction, and we see the same categorization, soy, corn, with very different responses. One of them, the corresponding to the purple ones, are the ones shown in the top right corner, where you have a second, the second crop very strong. The other is in the yellow, those yellow places, where the second crop is less strong. And that has to do simply with variations of soil and climate between the two things. And you don't get this if you just automate it, if you don't investigate the data. So investigating the data spends at least as much, if not more time, than actually the automating of the processes. So I think we're still far away from a situation that we can claim that everything is fully operational. There's a lot of investigation that needs to be done. And this kind of investigation pushes into the open science data, which is more than open data. It's open source, open methods, open peer review, open access, and open education. And that brings me to the main points which I would like to resume of my discussion. What we're having now is a multiplication of different, let's say, propositions. So at least one way to cut the cake is by looking at dividing approaches that are service-based, approaches that are API-based, and then approaches which are public and approaches which are private. So what we see here, you have public solutions which are service-based, like Copernicus Land Service, public solutions were API-based, like the Climate Data Store from ECMWF, Digital Earth Africa, which rely on DC, the Brazilian Data Cube, which relies on SIT. And then you have private solutions. Some of them are service-based, ELIP, NextGEOSS, and also some of the ESA tabs. And you have private solutions which are API-based, like Google Earth Engine and the Euro Data Cube. What's going to happen? I don't really know. My sense is that that situation will coalesce somehow into less solutions. And this is only a part of the fragmented landscape we see. We said the fragmented landscape is even more fragmented. How I don't think the history doesn't show to us that this fragmented landscape stands forever. So if we take the next of kin, GIS, we had 5-10 years ago a very fragmented landscape in open source, and now QGIS has sort of emerged as the winner. And on the commercial side, we also had a very fragmented landscape. And ESRI has emerged as a clear winner in terms, and when I say winner, I don't say it's the best, I say it's a winner in terms of users and market share. So I'm not convinced. So then I can stop sharing. Okay. So to finish up, I am not convinced at this point that necessarily we are going to have one solution appear, but I'm also not convinced that necessarily the current fragmented landscape will continue. I can only tell you that from the point of view of the group on Earth observations, we are bound by our mandate, and that's not our choice to make, but our mandate to solutions that allow the relevance of RIO Principle 10, more citizens being informed about their environment. Whether that is going to be achieved by private public services or a mix of both will depend partly on the market, partly on public investment, public on evolutions of technologies. And a third part, of course, important part, will be done by you, who are leaders in the technology development in Europe and who have done a very good work on the NextGEOSS, and you are commended by that. So that I hope that you'll be inspired by Push the Future and continue doing the good work you're doing today. So thank you very much, Bente, Marie-Françoise, and thank you very much for the discussion.
Thank you so much, Gilberto. This is, as we say in Norwegian, the music in our ears. So, and very good observations indeed. I see that there's a lot of people from the early morning session that is struggling to get in here, just so you know that. We are trying to find a direction for you to get in. Meanwhile, we have Marie-Françoise and Nuno here. I'm sure you can comment and perhaps ask some questions for clarification to Gilberto.
Hello, Gilberto. Hi, good to see you. I've only been able to join actually now. I've also had difficulties in joining before. So I just caught the last parts of Gilberto's intervention.
Well, I would like to thank you very much, Gilberto, for your strong support for NextGEOSS results. I think this is very encouraging. You know, we know each other since a long time, and I have always been motivated by the projects that put a goal of excellence. And in this domain, it's really hard because there is so much to do. There is so much to do, and everything is evolving so fast that it's really challenging. But you're right. I think we have put the bar really high. We know that we still have a lot to do to reach the requirements in between. The requirements, I mean the expectations of the community. In between, there are new technologies which are arising. We have to overcome the complexity of the fragmented resources in Europe, and this is what we are also working on, and the stakeholders from and Demos. So thank you very much for your support.
Thank you.
Just one note, I have not heard Gilberto now, but I've heard him sometimes before, and there's one thing that actually Gilberto is a big challenger. More than supporter, is a big challenger, which is very good. And there was a challenge that he issued some time ago, and that has sort of guided me in a lot of what we've been doing here in NextGEOSS and in Earth observation, which is the challenge of creating an ecosystem, or creating a system where the users can have all their interfaces available, homogenized, and have some kind of platform that you can really call a platform. So this is this is what we're trying to do here in NextGEOSS and in the NextGEOSS community activity that will be following up. This is not the end of NextGEOSS. This is the start of NextGEOSS and of a long path that we'll still have to make sure that we can support Earth observation applications more and more.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to put a link here to so you can get. I'm trying to get okay, a Dropbox link. So I'm going to put on the. I just put on the line. Let's say. Hope it's on. I don't know where is it. Okay.
Yes.
I've just put there. So that's the presentation, and you're happy to share and work with it and have questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gilberto. We
Bente,
will be.
Would you be so kind as I am going to tell you, of course, you know, but those who are attending here, that I'm on holiday, so I'm sort of interrupting my holidays to do this. Yeah. So I would like to know if there is anyone who has questions for me, or because I don't know if you prefer to take a look at the presentations, because I would have to leave soon for family reasons. My family is here with me and they want to go out and we're on the holidays, and so I don't know if there's any questions that you might want at this point or later. I don't know. But just that you have to understand that there is, you know, torn between two issues.
Yes.
Perhaps what I could do, Bente, is now that most people are on, I could just put one slide back and give you a hint of what the presentation was about, so as to do a bit of provocation to you. Would you mind doing that? So that some people.
You can provoke.
No. No,
really, we appreciate you being here. Definitely taking the time off your holidays from Rome, lovely Rome. So go ahead.
Okay, so that's it. So you see on your screen now, I suppose,
yes.
What is a mapping that will, in my view, come up with this. Let's see, these are. Just as a starting point for your discussion, a mapping between, let's say, quadrants here. So I've put in one side the public solutions, the other side the private solutions, the one side the API-based, the other one the service-based. And a question to you is that when you make a choice, you have different choices to make, and they have consequences from the point of view of usability, accessibility, and of course, public versus private. And I am not particularly today advocating any one solution. I just want to state that from the point of view of the funders, which are mostly European Commission and ESA, it is important to have the perception that there are different things being offered. And because there was a question asked earlier, is ELIP NextGEOSS is European answer to Google Earth Engine? And if you see by this, the answer is clearly no. It's something else. Whether this something else is what the community will buy, time will tell. But it is something else, and therefore we will see sometime the emergence of certain solutions in this ecosystem, and a combination of market forces and development, and of course investment, public investment, will dictate what's going to happen. So that was the basic slide I wanted to show you, and hopefully leave you to your discussions. So I think I should stop now. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Gilberto. I believe we already started to partly discuss this in the early morning session, right? I don't know if were you there, Gilberto?
Yes, I was there in the early morning session, and that's why I also came back to this, because there was a question asked to I don't know, from one to Nuno Catarino, whether NextGEOSS is the answer to Google Earth Engine.
Yes.
And my point is no. It's my perspective, and Nuno can have a different perspective, but since it's based on a solution that is aimed at automating things in sandboxes, which is ELIP, and which is a mature solution, you're actually targeting kinds of applications which are more or less ready to be deployable. As far as I understand the ELIP technology, the strength of NextGEOSS is on pushing applications which are ready to be deployed, and then ELIP can navigate through different providers and give different choices in terms of price performance to the one that wants to run the application. If I'm getting this wrong, Hervé, please correct me, but this is the impression I have of what you're offering as a technology. And there's a niche to this technology, certainly, and the niche depends less on the quality of your technology, but rather on the number of services and applications which are operationals ready. And that's where the debate lies, whether we can have how many of applications and EO applications are ready to be deployed in a sandbox in an operational way, and how many will need to be first developed as API-based and then move later on to operations.
Well, I'm really sorry, because I see that Hervé cannot join the session, but what I can bring based on what I know is that Terado is very involved in the work from OGC on moving on APIs. They're involved in pilots and test beds and so on. So I think that no solution is static, everyone is evolving, and so this is...
I would say, I agree with your picture as it is now. I would say that NextGEOSS and the follow-up community activity NextGEOSS, the goal would be basically to be all in the 4 quadrants, not just in one, at least in the top right 3. Because ELIP indeed is a solution for cloud deployment service, but we should have additional, we do have additional approaches. I mean, both ourselves, Terado, we have API-based solutions. For example, the Jupyter Notebooks is one of them. So the goal is not to propose technologies, and this, I think, it's the European strength that we can bring to the World Earth Observation Forum, is the strong connection with the users. So the goal is to be completely user-driven, and if there's a new technology needed, we will get it, either from an existing partner or from a new participant, or to develop the technology. But the goal is not to be stuck with a particular approach, is to cater for all the needs that we find.
Okay, so I would like then to thank Bente, Marie-Françoise, Nuno, and everyone, and wish you all a continued very productive work and very productive summit. Thank you so much, and see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Thank you.